What's up, guys? So today I'm going to be showing you my Zombie World deck profile for April 2022. This deck has actually been the deck I've used in Ranked to carry me throughout Ranked every season so far. It's not incredibly optimized. There's a lot you can do to get even more consistent with it and more powerful with it, but I haven't really had an issue with this deck, and it's more of a budget deck because it's missing some, at least, numbers of cards. So let's start with your main bread and butters. So you want a bloom. You really want two blooms, but I run one and I haven't really had an issue with it as long as you use it properly. Then you want 3 unizombies. This is sort of non-negotiable. It's too powerful to not use. And if you want to compete against some of the higher level decks, you want to start investing in some staples. So if you don't have your Ash Blossoms yet, you should probably invest in them. Plus they're zombies, so for this deck it's just really good to have. Then you want 3 Mizuki. And then you want 3 Solitaire. Now you can get Solitaire from the Shiranui solo mode once you unlock that full deck, so you don't have to invest your SRs into the Solitaires. Then you want 2 Gozukis. This is for getting to the graveyard. So you want to be sending your Glow Up Bloom to the graveyard once you have Zombie World on the field, or you want to be sending your next card here, your Necro World Banshees to the graveyard, so that you can set up your Zombie World directly from the deck, which is a huge deal. Then you want your Vampire Frolin. So she is just your attack over everything. People don't read this card, so when they attack, you can just drop her from the hand. They're not going to read what it does. They're going to still attack, and then you just get to nuke them, basically. You get to add 3,000 attack to the monster battling by paying 3,000 life points. So this wins you games. The Glow Up Bloom will win you games once we get to our boss monster here. All around, just a good card. I run 1 Jacko Ballin. You're not really going to use him that much, but he is really nice to have because it lets you discard to summon him. So you're discarding a zombie to the graveyard, which is just a setup for you anyway. And you can also banish him to special summon a zombie from the graveyard. So that lets you bring out whatever you need at whatever time. Then for our boss monster, I only run 2 of him. Doom King Balderrock. So he can come back every standby phase so long as your field spell is out, or a field spell is out. And whenever a zombie uses an effect, which includes your monsters, by the way, you can, if you don't have Zombie World on the field, you can activate your own zombie's effect, and then chain and banish a card on the field for free. So yeah, you can, once per chain, when a zombie monster activates an effect, you can negate that effect or banish a monster on the field or graveyard. So this lets you clear the field and negate whatever your opponent's trying to set up. So all around, that's your boss monster. As far as spells and traps, I run Raigeki, Monster Reborn, Feather Duster, which I think you have to buy. As far as the other 2, I think you get from solo mode. I also get a Foolish Burial, another thing you should really invest into because so many decks can benefit from a Foolish Burial. I also run a Lightning Storm. I don't know why that's not bookmarked. Oop. Now, I don't really like Lightning Storm because it does not activate if you have face-up cards. So if you draw this mid-game and you already have your Zombie World set up, it's not good at all. It's really only for like a turn 2, like your opponent just set up their board, you can wipe it real quick, or you got board wiped and now you top deck this card. So this can be replaced with a Twin Twister or something like that if you don't want to drop the UR on it, or if you already have a Twin Twister. Next, pretty expensive, Zombie World. Probably should. There you go. It's a UR. It's kind of non-negotiable, obviously, for this deck. but it is really strong, so it's only fair. I also use Burial from a different dimension. You don't need this one either, necessarily. You could also run another card later that lets you recover banished cards. This I just find is very useful because you can banish up to recover up to 3. Next, I really love this card. Not everybody runs it in their Zombie World decks, but why would you not? It's Super Polymerization. You can run this in any deck, really, so it's another thing you should really consider investing into if you haven't, because there's an extra deck card later that you can use in every deck with the Super Poly that pretty much never doesn't have a target. So you should really consider that. Next is your Zombie Power Struggle. So this lets you target a zombie monster on the field. It gains or loses 1,000 attack. You can choose. And then when it's in the graveyard, you can banish this card to shuffle a banished zombie monster into the deck. And then you can set it back. So this lets you attack over pretty much everything, or survive any battle, and also just, not any battle, but you know what I mean. And also recover your Glow Up Bloom or your Necro, World Banshee, whatever you need at the time. Next, you want my favorite card in this deck, Zombie Necronize, because you're always going to have a level 5 or higher zombie monster if you've played your hand without getting, negated. So you can always just steal their monster, and then you can synchro it off. And this also lets you recover banished zombies, so it's just a really good card. Finally, not everybody runs this deck or card anymore, but I really like it because a lot of cards nowadays activate out of the graveyard. I love Book of Life, and I will always run it, because you can banish their monster from the graveyard and revive one of yours. So it's a Monster Reborn. It requires 2 targets, which is why no one runs it. But you can actually set your opponent behind a lot if you are against the right type of opponent. As for trap cards, let me see if I can find it just by typing zombie, because I don't remember the exact name. Here we go. Return of the Zombies. This card, it's very situational, but you banish a zombie monster on the field, special summon 1 zombie monster from the graveyard of the player who controlled it in defense position. So you can pretty much say they bring out their boss monster, just say nope, and then just bring out, a trash monster from their graveyard. Or you can do the same for yourself and basically revive a monster by trading off, like, say one of your Mizukis or whatever you do. So it's not bad at all. Next, this is where I might lose some of you. I still run Mirror Force. No one runs Mirror Force anymore. I still run Mirror Force because people don't expect it anymore. And it actually hasn't really caused a problem for me. If you don't want to invest in Mirror Force, say you didn't pull it from a pack, Compulsory is also something no one uses anymore, which can set your opponents behind quite a bit if you activate it, so I definitely recommend Compulsory. I also run a Bottomless Trap Hole and a Compulse. I just realized I didn't add that zombie card that I was talking about. There you go. And I also forgot Necronize. I was talking too much. Wait, no. I got Necronize. Power Struggle. That's what I forgot. There you go. Okay, so that's our full 40 card deck. As for the extra deck, you want Dragon Necro. So it's 2 zombie monsters, and when you have Zombie World on the field, everything is a super poly target for this card. So you can run 2 of them if you want. I think 1 for sure. Then you want Starving Venom. Oh my gosh, I can't spell. There you go. This card, you're gonna be very hard pressed to find a deck that your opponent runs that doesn't run at least a dark monster, because dark is, I think, the most common attribute. So you're pretty much always gonna have a target for Starving Venom Dragon, and that is just a big like setback for your opponent when you super poly their board into a monster on your side of the field. Then you want people don't run this card, but I love Red Eye Zombie Necro Dragon. I loved the original Red Eye Zombie Dragon when they released that deck. That was one of the first decks I used in locals. So I really love this card. Plus, once you get it mid-game, it's going to have 4,000 attack, pretty much guaranteed. So it attacks over most things and lets you, just mess everything up. I also run a Stardust. I never really bring it out, so you don't really need to run it. But yeah, then while we're talking about free Shiranui cards you can get with the deck that you get for free from the solo mode, there's a lot of filler extra deck cards you can get from this. I'm pretty sure all 3 Shogun Sagas are free, and it's just a level 8. If you happen to, say, give Unizombie an extra level when you're using his effect, you can get a level 8 instead, and it's pretty good. So definitely run that. And then for Link monsters, I run one Zombie Sucker, or not Zombie Sucker, Vampire Sucker, sorry. She is really good, so you could run more than one if you want to invest into that. 2 zombie monsters. If you attribute summon a zombie monster, you contribute a zombie your opponent controls. And you can also target a monster in your opponent's graveyard, special summon it. It becomes a zombie. Now you might not think that's good, but when you run her, when a zombie monster special summon from the graveyard, draw 1 card. And then you can always just super poly that off if you just made a target for yourself, you know what I mean? So it's really not that big of a setback, especially when you can just keep drawing, because all of your cards really come back from the graveyard. Then the last Link monster, I very rarely summon her, but she is really strong, so I definitely recommend investing into it, is Yugioh, the Absolute Zero Mayakashi. She can turn a monster's attack on the field to 0, negates effects whenever a monster is special summoned from the graveyard. So it's just really good. It is a Link 4 though, so it is kind of expensive. But if you're ahead, you're not going to really have a problem. And this makes sure you're ahead basically. And that's the deck. I don't run a full 15 card extra deck. You really probably should. I just think it's funny because people look at the extra deck and go, why does this guy have 15 cards? But yeah, this is the deck I run. I very rarely have a problem. If I do lose, it's because I fell behind or bricked. This deck really has a way to compete against a lot of the higher meta decks, and that's why you see people running Zombie Worlds. So definitely give it a try. It's relatively cheap. Like I said, you can exchange out those Mirror Forces for anything. There's a lot of really good normal and rare trap cards. The Zombie Worlds are non-negotiable. Lightning Storm you can replace for anything. Zombie Necronize I really recommend, but if you want to replace it, you can. These are free. Harpy's Feather Duster, you really should invest into. Foolish Burial, you really should invest into. Super Poly, why wouldn't you? But the main monsters, I think, you pretty much have to run these. I would recommend probably one more Glow Up Bloom. I don't know what you would replace. Maybe one Mizuki, but Mizuki's just really good, so I don't know. But let me know what you guys think in the comments.